and boom goes the dynamite.
Happy Monday, everybody. Happy President's Day as well. But look, welcome to another episode of Daily Dive. We've got plenty to get into from this past weekend. I'm your host, Renee Washington. Joining me is producer Mike. I don't even want to bring him on the show because, guys, I don't know what Kool-Aid Mike is drinking, but he is crushing it. His picks, again, undefeated. So that, of course, means I did not go undefeated. That's back-to-back weeks. What is happening here? Mike, welcome into the show. I got to give you your flowers. Before we even get into our top story of the episode, back-to-back weeks where you picked perfect in every single game. Congrats.
Thank you, and I hate to do this, but not only is it 13 straight games, but also it's 4 extra ones because the way they chronologically lined up, it's actually 17 in a row. So it's better than I thought it was. Hey, it was a little bit tough this week though. There's a couple like
That is the sound of Mike tooting his own horn a little extra. I gave you your flowers. You didn't have to add the 17, but yes. Producer Mike went perfect again this weekend. So with that, let's get into our top story by Daily Dive Store. You can check out the link in our bio, but also the link on your screen to be able to check out the merchandise that we are selling at Daily Dive and be able to support and purchase some beanies, some hoodies with producer Mike going perfect. Get your Daily Dive gear now because this man is like, I don't know. I'll definitely say an expert for sure. You've proven yourself. I don't know many people that have been perfect in any league for any sport the way that you have the last 17 games. So, all right, but let's talk about it. We talked about who's better. It's you, better than me. But let's talk about who's worse, the Georgia Swarm or the Vancouver Warriors. Now, the Toronto Rock did knock off the Swarm 16-7 this past week. We both picked the Rock to win that game. By no surprise, we saw in that game Lyle Thompson finished with a hat trick and a pair of assists, only 2 turnovers. So that's something that has been a struggle for him, much better this game. But with that, Tom Schreiber, someone I picked as one of my top MVP frontrunners, 4 goals, 4 assists in the Rocks win. And we also saw 25 saves and 10 goals allowed by Brett Dobson between the pipes for Georgia. Now, in the Warriors' loss to the Roughnecks, they lost 14-9. Vancouver led that game 6-5 at halftime. And then Calgary, led by Jesse King's 4 goals, 4 assists, Christian Del Bianco's 53 saves in the game. They go on to knock off Vancouver. Aaron Bold finished with 33 saves in the game. So, who is worse in your opinion after what we've seen, not only this weekend, but just so far this season between the Swarm and the Warriors?
I would like to say it's the Swarm that are worse because on the surface, of course, you have the inconsistent schedule. You have they're playing juggernauts to start the season over and over and over again. Vancouver, however, has been competitive in their games. But I feel like Georgia on paper has a better roster and has more consistency. I would have to go, I think Swarm are worse because they're underperforming more so. To me, that means something. Like when you have expectations and they're like way up here and they're down here, Warriors like right here and down here. So it's like they're not like super shot that they stink right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you look at the Georgia Swarm, I mean, up until this weekend, all but 2 of their games were actually close games. So another game that was more than a 5-goal difference. And I do think they have had a really tough schedule. You know, the way that the NLL shakes up with you playing more teams in your conference, that means they're playing the Rock, the Bandits. It's just been a tougher schedule, but it's not an excuse, you know. And even they've had a wonky, like, random bye week here and there, which makes it hard to get a rhythm going. I do understand that. So you can make excuses in addition to the fact that they're without Miles Thompson, that their roster overall, they're trying to fill in the gaps right now around Lyle Thompson. So for Vancouver, at least though, they have been more competitive, but they've struggled to close out games, as you saw in the second half against Calgary. I don't know.
I also think Georgia, I think Georgia's goalie, Brett Dobson, has been super duper inconsistent. It's kind of like, I guess, Rochester's problem last year compared to this year. I don't know if Brett Dobson is ever going to be on the level of Rylan Hartley the way he's been playing, but Brett Dobson, man, like you said, 10 goals allowed in like 25. It's not going to cut it.
No.
I know it's The Rock, but you guys just played them. Like, no adjustments. Like, we're still getting blown out with the same team, no matter where it's being played. I can't get down with that.
Definitely cannot get down with that. Got to be able to make some adjustments. Well, moving forward, these teams have it doesn't get any easier, but Georgia, in their next 3 games, they face Albany twice, and then they do face Rochester, a top team, as you know, we've been talking about every week. And then Vancouver has the Rush, the Desert Dogs, and the Seals. So looking ahead of, for both these teams of their 3 games, who's got the most opportunity here? I know my answer, but producer Mike, you've been more correct than me, so I will let you go first.
So I think it's the Swarm. I really do. I think the fact they have about another chance at a back-to-back against an Albany team that low-key might be in the conversation next week. So, like, they're starting to, like, filter down that ladder. And for Vancouver, I mean, I don't think there's an even easy game at all on that schedule. So, and then I think Rochester at home, you could kind of, skate past that. But I think they get one against Albany, and that's pretty much it for the next 3.
Yeah, I would be surprised if Georgia's able to beat Albany twice, but those are 2 very winnable games. Being winless at 0-7 after this weekend, you're looking to figure out how you can get in the win column. These are 2 games they could win. And I do agree. I feel like Albany, the Fire Wolves, are trending in the wrong direction. So it's a shame they have to play them back-to-back, because I think if this was spread out, they might be able to win both games. But on the other side for Vancouver at 1-9, yikes, it doesn't get any easier. The Desert Dogs playing them yet again could be an opportunity for Vancouver to get another victory, since their lone victory came against Vegas. Well, that being said, we've got to get into some teams that are winning, make some upsets, some other results from this past weekend. So more to come here on Daily Dive in our next segment as we take a look at another game on the West, the Rush defeating the Seals. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Daily Dive, where we're breaking down all things going on around the NLL after this past weekend's results. This segment brought to you by Fanatics. You can check out the link in our social media bio to see the merchandise, NLL merch, that you can purchase at Fanatics. Well, I'm Renee Washington, producer Mike, who's been untouchable, invincible, and undefeated in all of his picks, joining me as we are breaking down the results. Now, we talked about 2 struggling teams in the Warriors and the Swarm. Let's talk about some other teams staying on the West. Out in the West, the San Diego Seals, who we've been saying it's only a matter of time, dropped their 2nd loss of the season. Now, they lost earlier this season to Calgary. They lose again to a Western Conference opponent in Saskatchewan Rush, 16-11. Dane Doby was fantastic in that game, though, for the Seals. 5 goals, 1 assist, some beautiful goals at that. Wasn't enough, though. On the other side, Mark Matthew finished with 3 goals, 3 assists, Bouquet in net, 36 saves. And then on the other side for the Seals, Chris Origlieri, 17 saves across 37 minutes, but allowed 9 goals. So you look at the performance on both sides, especially Jake Boudreau, someone we haven't talked about much here on the show. The rookie finished with 3 goals and scored one of those with just 9 seconds left in a game that you're already winning. And then when I saw that, I was like, ooh, pull a little extra salt on that. But with 9 seconds left, Dane Doby not happy about it. Rightfully so. From a sportsmanship standpoint, you're clearly going to win. but the rookie wanted to get a hattie and did that. So with that, Saskatchewan now 5-3. San Diego Seals dropped to 6-2. Mike, what were your thoughts seeing this game? Let's start with the last 9 seconds. Jake Boudreau, a rookie. Is this a rookie mistake? Is this just adding insult to injury? What were your thoughts when you saw that final goal in the final seconds of a game that the Rush were already going to clearly win?
So it's not like a rookie mistake, that's for sure. He definitely knew this, if he had the opportunity, he was going to do this. I think he knew that. I think it's just rookie getting a hat trick. I think you said it best. Like, I don't like to think there's any ill will, because he didn't seem phased at all. Like, Dane Dobie's like, cussing him out, throwing everything at him. And Jake Bridger's like, wait, he's mad? He's like, yeah, he's mad. Like, it's the unwritten rule. You can't do that kind of thing. So I get that part. And there's the running joke that Dane Dobie gets mad at everything. He tried to drop his mitts earlier in the game too, which I thought was, they should have let him fight. They didn't. It's on ESPN2, whatever. I guess we already had one of those with Vegas, but I don't know, man. Boudreaux, you got be careful with that going forward. You got your hat trick now. Unless it's a sock trick, let's be careful with that going forward.
That's a great point, because yes, you want to get the hat trick. It's a play where it's set up. How do you not score? I hate to say, but on the other side, there's a lot left to play in this season, and you are definitely going to face the Seals again. So, you don't want to give them any more chalk talk, whiteboard material that they'll be able to have, adding to the animosity of why they should beat you. But I do agree. As a rookie, you get a chance to get a hat trick. Like, I see both sides of it. But we'll see how it continues to develop, if it has any sort of implication on the future. But overall, any surprises in that game that you saw? As we've talked a lot about the Seals maybe not being a top team, and the Rush might have shown a little something there.
And at first glance, you're like, well, all the Rush just built to beat the Seals, because we've seen in other sports like the Buffalo Bills this year in the NFL that you felt like their one goal was to beat the Chiefs, and they didn't even get a chance to do that. So it's like, what is your goal for the season? I guess the Rush did kind of want to get back to the Seals, because they had like a 7-goal game earlier in the season, 7-goal lead, and blew it.
Yeah.
But here's the issue: Seals are not competitive. And with, like, in these good games, like if you're on ESPN2, both of you are supposed to get up for that game, and it's telling. I told you that I think they have a goalie problem too, by the way. But it also is very telling that the Rush got up for it and just punched you in the mouth, and you could not punch back, even though Dane Dobie wanted to. And I think Alex Bouquet was the absolute difference. It seems like a goalie has been the difference for Rochester and now Saskatchewan from year to year. And San Diego's got to figure it out quick, because for an all-star cast, it don't look like it.
Well, we've talked about it on the show before. Having a goalie that is consistent often is the difference. And as you mentioned earlier this season, when these two faced off December 9th, that would have been a very early game in the season, like week 2. The Rush did have the lead against the Seals, but blew it, and the Seals came back. Now, this time the Seals were unable to do so. And we've talked about that lag that the Seals hit, where they just kind of drop off in intensity, and teams are able to go on a run. And against good teams, you can't have that happen. We saw it in their loss to Calgary. We saw it again against the Rush. And we've seen it in games that they've won and been able to bounce back from. So as we're talking about top teams got to be able to start strong and finish strong. Well, two teams that are not at the top, but still trying to get off that struggle bus. One of them got another victory. This is a game. I should have picked the Desert Dogs. Desert Dogs, yeah. This could have gone either way. It should have gone either way. They win by 2 against Albany. Now, Rob Hellier finishes with 2 goals, 5 assists. And with that, Albany drops to 2-6. And the Vegas Desert Dogs are now 3-5. The new team on the block with a trio of victories. How do you like them apples, Mike?
I love those apples. I'm only a Red Delicious guy, to be fair. Oh, look at you. Did you really have an apple?
Oh, no.
Okay, so I don't know what probably better, the coin or the apple, but I'm digging the apple. Oh, gotta wash that off now.
I just dropped it.
I do think it's really impressive. Rob Hellier, what he's been doing the last 3 or 4 weeks is not being talked about. It might be because it's Vegas, but it should be talked about more. And Rob Hellier, like his assist totals have been off the charts. Another 5-piece here, and that does matter. And like I get like one guy has a score, but when you lacrosse, you have it's like everything's an alley oop. Like you have to be in the right spot. You can't just give it to a guy who like catches it way back here because then he's out of rhythm and the guy's already up next to him. So to have those assists consistently really is awesome for him. And their goalie once again stepped up. I don't know what's going on. Albany, they got to feel bad right now because they, yeah, no.
Well, like we talked about for Albany, trending in the wrong direction. A team that was kind of in the mix at one point, and now not so impressive as of late. You have to wonder with a game that you drop to Vegas and you play the Georgia Swarm in upcoming weeks, if they are going to be able to get back on the right track. I mean, we saw them in the opening part of the season. You defeat the Buffalo Bandits. Not many teams can say they've done that. Only two. You knock off the Buffalo Bandits. Everyone's, we're like, whoa, holy smokes. They had a close game with Rochester. Like the way they start the season, beat the Bandits, lose by 1 to Rochester. Impressive wins, a win over Halifax, and they had a strong start. But when you look at their last results, 13-5 loss to the Wings, this loss to the Desert Dogs, you just can't have these types of this drop off where you knock off the top team, you're competitive with the top teams, and then you're losing against teams that are at the bottom of the standing. I think maybe they're just getting up to play some teams, and they're not bringing that same level in every single game.
Another thing is I can argue, like, so the Riptide have Jeff Teat, the Warriors have Keegan Ball, the Swarm have Lyle Thompson, and Albany has who? I'm no disrespect to anybody in Albany, but they might be the low-key worst roster in the NLL. And so the fact they do have 2 wins is impressive that early. But now, things look a lot worse in week 12 than they did in week 3.
It makes you wonder who is the guy in Albany, who's going to be the player that is leading them. Is it Kieran McCardle? Is it Tanner Thompson? Who is it? We have no idea. So we do know who the guy is, or a couple of guys in Panther City. Panther City knocked off the defending champs, Colorado Mammoth. At some point, we will stop introducing them as defending champs, but they are until somebody else wins. Panther City knocks off the Colorado Mammoth. We saw rookie Jonathan Donville, who has been sweeping Rookie of the Week honors. 3 goals, 4 assists. Callum Crawford, we've talked about many times here, also finishes with 3 goals, 4 assists. He now increases his shooting percentage to 33.3%. Woo-wee. And also is now 8th all-time in points. So with that, we saw a big win for Panther City. Now, Reese Dutch was a random last-minute scratch. We're not really sure what happened there. And also last minute, we saw a fight break out as Phil Caputo took it to him, socked it to Jordan Giles. But with that, Panther City 6-4, Colorado below 500 now at 4-5. Panther City, a team we've talked about, Mike, that you cannot sleep on. They are trending in the right direction. Does this prove that?
I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, I think Colorado is now 0-2 in games they randomly scratch a star. Just saying. So it's not the competitive advantage that you'd think it would be. But that is getting ridiculous because they're the same team that scratched Dylan Ward. It's whatever. As for Panther City, listen, I don't know if he's a Jeff Teat, but he's definitely a Jonathan Donville. And like you said, he's been sweeping up the Rookie of the Week honors, which is pretty impressive considering lacrosse is only going to grow as the game gets more expansive with people. And Callum Crawford, dude, what a pickup that has been for this team. Have they lost, 3 or 4-1 with this guy? Like, Riptide are still struggling. And Callum's like, yo, watch this, pal. He still got it. It's like, I think Callum's 38, and guess who else is 38? Oh, LeBron James. Okay. Just saying.
I liked it. I like that. Look, when you look across just the way that Colorado has been playing all season, whether it was their opening weekend loss to Saskatchewan 18-6, or then having a close win against some teams, and then we've seen them in tight games against the Georgia Swarm. You lost to the Desert Dogs, excuse me. And they've now lost to the Desert Dogs 13-8. They lost to Panther City 13-7. When they lose, they lose. And that in itself is something that's very discouraging. What happens when you are down a goal? Now it becomes 2 goals. Who's picking you guys back up? Who's getting you organized? Who's helping you refocus? Whereas on the other side for Panther City, as you talk about, especially with Callum Crawford, these last games, they've been lights out. They've been able to score goals. They've just looked better. You see a little bit more confidence in how they're playing. They put up 20 goals against Vancouver. They've been scoring. They now knock off Colorado in a very convincing win.
See, Panther City, it's interesting because they do the same thing Colorado does. Like, they rough it up, which is why the fight happened. So that their defensive team, but they can also go and get theirs, i.e. Callum Crawford. I don't know who's getting it because Eli McLaughlin, all these other guys are just not doing it for Colorado. I don't know if they feel complacent. I do wonder if once you win a championship in the NLL, how hard it is to get back up considering you still are not getting paid like a regular superstar. So I wonder, I don't question their commitment. I question how much they have to try harder now to keep getting better. Because once you've reached it, it's like, okay, cool. Like, why is it worth it to keep on risking your body? And that's, again, I'm not questioning the commitment. I'm questioning whether it's worth it right now.
Well, I think the biggest thing is we have to keep an eye on how Colorado, the championship hangover continues, because they definitely are not doing well this season. They've had some bright moments. They've had, around their banner raising game and everything, Reese Dutch breaking, milestone, but hasn't been enough. But we do have one more game to get into before we discuss our 3 stars of the weekend. So let's get into our last brew after this quick break. We'll be back here on Daily Dive. I'm your host, Renee Washington, joined by producer Mike, as we are breaking down and recapping all of the action that happened this past weekend across the NLL, looking at week 12 as we had a lot go down. So it's time for our last brew. Get out those coffee mugs. Time for our last brew by B-Res Coffee Company, where you can sample different, I'm like bringing props to the show now. You can sample different flavors and use the code DailyDive at checkout to see all the great new exciting tastes and flavors that you can see and taste at B-Res Coffee Company. Well, let's get into our final game, Mike. Your guy, Jeff T. 6 goals, 3 assists, 16 shots on goal as the Riptide fall to the Thunderbirds. 13-12. Jeff T involved in 9 of those 12 goals, if you did that math quick enough. The Thunderbirds are now at 500 as Halifax is sitting at 5-5. The Riptide 2-7 in a game that they led 5-2 in the second quarter. They end up losing by 1. Now, what were your thoughts on this game?
This is gotta, I'm sure Jeff T is gonna be the first person to tell people we're still losing. But don't it feel good, baby? I mean, I said they needed him to step up, and after Callum got traded, that's what he did. So he's doing his part. He's trying his best. And sometimes your best ain't good enough. Just ask certain players in other leagues who have tried and just went up against better teams. Eventually, team sports, it does matter if the other team is better. You can have the best player all you want to, but if the other team is better, you're going to lose. Isn't that funny?
With that, Jeff Teague gets his third sock trick. He's closing in on a record 4 is the most that's happened in a season, which is wild. But as you talk about, it is a team sport, and I have had this discussion with many people over many different players. Unless it's like golf or tennis, swimming, track, which is also a team sport actually, and swimming as well. But you cannot carry the entire team in a team sport where there's several players on the field. You can make a difference. You could be the one that helps them win. You can be the one that helps them lose. You might be an impact player in that way, that you're changing the results with a big goal or big assist. But game after game after game, it's not enough to just have Jeff Teague versus everybody. At some point, you have to have pieces around him. But I will say on the other side for Halifax, much like Panther City, Halifax has been a team. I've been singing their praises. I've been impressed with them. And I think that Halifax and Panther City are getting it done. They're getting the wins that they're supposed to get. They're surprising some people. They're continuing to move up the standings quietly, and a team that I would hate to face as we get into the later part of the season. So with that, let's get into our 3 stars of the weekend as we get ready to wrap up this last brew. First one has to go to... Wait a minute. Is this a typo? Is he on here again? Oh, wait, it's not. It's Dane Smith. 5 goals, 5 assists, including the game winner to knock off the Wings in overtime. Still without Josh Byrne, no problem. Dane Smith gets it done. I told you that game would be close. For whatever reason, when the Bandits and Wings face each other, it's always a close game. Jeff Teague, with that sock trick and the 3 assist performance, even though they lost, he is the 4th player to ever have 3 sock tricks in a season. And as I mentioned, nobody has had 4. He's now has a chance to make history in these 9 games left in the regular season. So with 1 more sock trick, he's stamping himself in the history books. And then also, Bouquet. Alex Bouquet, Saskatchewan Rush goalie, showed up and showed out against a very potent Seals offense. Was able to help lift the Rush to a victory, including those 36 saves in that 5-goal win over the Seals. So those are our 3 stars of the weekend. And as I always ask you, Mike, which of these 3 really impressed you the most?
The one who just separated himself in the MVP conversation, the Great Dane himself.
I think you said him last week too.
Yeah, but he's like, I believe, 2 car lengths ahead now. Like I've even like car lengths. I'm a NASCAR fan. But he's like 2 car lengths for 2 seconds, whatever you want to say, because I think Tom Schreiber's going to have to make up some ground on this guy. I mean, I know, okay, I guess he's got Matt Vince behind him. I guess Tom Schreiber has Nick Rose. I get it. But really, without Josh Byrne, there was, like, you were wondering, this is going to be another good year for Buffalo. And Dane says, multiple time MVP over here. My fingers are adding up. My fingers are stacking up with rings over here. Okay, so, yeah, hey, good job for Dane.
Yeah. I mean, he continues to. We were just talking about it's a team sport. You need more players around you to win games, but the best players find ways to help your team win games. And when you look at that overtime game winner, when you look at just the way that Dane Smith has been stepping up, especially without Josh Byrne, who was still out with an injury, Dane is definitely showing why he is deserving of winning MVP again. Top across the league in points. One of the top players across the league for the goals and assists categories with 24 goals, 58 assists, and 82 points. But a lot of those game winners, big-time goals, much-needed goals, right-on-time goals. So definitely, of the 3 stars, I think he shined bright like a Dane Smith.
That was pretty good.
Thank you. Producer Mike, always #1 hype man, no matter how corny my puns are. Thank you very much. And with that, thank you guys for tuning in to another edition of Daily Dive here, where we're bringing you the latest updates, trade news, results, previews, and much more, not just around the NLL, but all things across each and every day, Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern time. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Check us out at Daily Dive Live to see all the great new content we're posting, we're sharing, we're talking about here on the show and also on social media. So for producer, words. For producer Mike, I'm Ray Washington saying so long from Daily Dive. Have a great rest of your Monday. We will see you guys back here for more on Tuesday. Hasta la vista.